morning, Central Texas. Welcome to Kids Community Connections. This is Phyllis Jones, your host for this morning, and it's where we bring the news to you and you to the news. You know, most everybody who knows me, or if you don't, I work with special needs kids, and people think of it as a, I don't know, they give these words like God bless you and all this, but to me it's fun. It's not a challenge. A lot of people say it's stressful, but I haven't found out that yet. Maybe I'm just as special as my kids sometimes, but I don't think of it as stressful. I think it is rewarding, and I just have fun. I mean, if I can't have fun, then I'm not going to go to work every day. But, you know, I was looking on Facebook, searching, and came across a young man on Facebook, and his name is Ronnie Sydney. And the few words popped up about him that made me search more, and it was that he grew up through special ed. He went through special ed. He's an African-American male. And he went through special ed, and now he's writing some awesome books. I need to order one of them, and I picked out the one I want to order, so I'm going to get it. But he's also going around speaking, and you know, to those of us who do this, and parents who are listening, that's very important. And Ronnie's on the line right now. And how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great.
Good. So you live in Virginia, correct?
Yes.
Did you go to school in Virginia?
Yes, I went through, actually, I did old school town in Virginia called Tappahannock.
And at what age did you enter into special ed?
I entered in special ed in the third grade, so I'm guessing maybe around 8 or 9 years old.
So what made them put you in special ed? I mean, what did they say your disability was?
They diagnosed me with a specific learning disability related to my handwriting, also written comprehension, the ADHD piece, which is really a lot of the hyperactivity, the not paying attention, the restlessness, easily distracted, and also my organizational skills, which probably were related more to the ADHD. So
did you agree with that when they put you in special ed, or did you think that hindered you a little bit?
Well, I didn't really know much in elementary school. I mean, I know I used to get yelled at a lot by teachers. And, even when I went to the resource class, because we had an aide that we worked with, I just tested with her. It really wasn't like stigmatizing in elementary school. I just really didn't even know I was in it, until I talked to my parents, and they told me about it. But in middle school, that's when I started to really realize that, I was having to leave my friends and go to this resource class, right. And that, people judge kids who went to those classes. So
do you think you got the proper education the way that your friends did?
Well, I think that the resource class I had in middle school, from what I remember, it was helpful. It did give me some extra time to, organize my work. And I had a really good special education teacher who was really, she was really supportive and really encouraging. She never made me feel like I had a disability. She made me feel like I had challenges that, with the proper support and the proper tools that I could overcome it.
That's great. What about high school?
In high school, that's when I started the transition out of special education. When I got to high school, they had put me in self-contained special education. Okay,
can you explain self-contained for some people who don't know what that is?
Yes. So self-contained is when I was enrolled in a curriculum where all of my primary classes was in a special education room. So like science, English, history, all of those classes were going to be taken in the special education room. And the only classes I would take with other students was electives like PE or art. And when I went to high school, I was expecting to be in class with my friends, regular ed classes. So, it was a really big shock, on the first day of school when the guidance counselor hands me a new schedule, and there's all special education classes. And that's when I asked my parents to remove me from special education because I didn't want to, be in it anymore, and I felt like it was limiting the things that I wanted to do.
So, my other question is, while you were in special ed, did you find it more males were in special ed than females?
Yeah, it was a lot of males, mostly black males. When I got to high school, there were some females in there, but it was mostly black males.
So, and okay, and I know here in I'm in Texas and a lot of other places, you do find you have more African American males placed in special ed. Yet when you look into the hallways of the other kids, you see some non-African American males acting the same way. Yet they remain in regular ed.
Yes, yeah, and I noticed that in school, and that was one reason why I wanted to get out of special education, because I started to see, because the town I'm from, it's about 50-50 in terms of African Americans and whites. But when you looked at the classes that were geared towards kids who are going to college, it was 85% white. And, and they had two tracks. They had sort of the high expectation track, and they had the low expectation track. And the low expectation track was mostly African Americans, and the whites that were in there, were at a low socioeconomic status. So they weren't like the middle class, the rich whites who was more the whites who had a similar experience, to a lot of the black students I went to school with.
Right.
And, and I saw that they were, putting me on that track, even though it was not something I wanted. And it was almost deliberate. And I saw that it was a deliberate, move, because even when I, told my parents I didn't want to be in special education, I stayed in there for about another year and a half. But it was more on you're in special education, we're going to watch you and track you, and if you need additional help, you stay in there. But, even when they took me out of the self-contained and put me back in the regular ed, they put me on a lower track,
wow.
Where I was in classes with kids, and there were a lot of behavior problems, and there was a lot of, there really wasn't any expectation academically, in the classroom. So if it was a student there who was actually a bright student, they wouldn't be challenged.
Right.
The teachers it was more of a daycare. Just,
I understand what you mean.
Want to keep y'all from fighting each other and tearing each other head off and try to get through this period.
So that wasn't a good transition.
No, it wasn't motivating for me at all, because after a while I started to see that this is how things are going to play out. So I had to learn how to become my own advocate. And I had to start advocating for foreign language classes. And the school was reluctant to give me foreign language class until I was in 11th grade. And in Virginia, most of the colleges required 3 years of foreign language.
Right.
So, they really set kids up to, even if they wanted to go to college, it was going to be a difficult transition, because you wouldn't have had the proper classes that you needed to go into college. So, that was frustrating. So once I finished high school, I ended up going to community college.
Okay. And so what made you decide to turn around and write books about, children's books at that? What made you decide to do that?
Well, when I finished my master's degree in social work, I had reconnected with my former special education
Can you stop right there?
Yeah.
Okay, because I want you to say that again, because you went through special ed and you got out of school with your...
So I graduated high school. I went to community college in Richmond, Virginia.
Right.
And I transferred to a college called Old Dominion University, which is in Norfolk, Virginia. And I earned my bachelor's degree in 2006.
Good.
And it was in human services. So I went back, and I always had a passion working with kids, particularly kids who had, challenges.
Right.
And I did that for about 4.5 years. But I hit a ceiling in work. Having a bachelor's degree in human services is equivalent to a high school diploma. A lot of the programs with supervision and programs where you could actually be more of a benefit requires a license or requires a master's degree.
Right.
So I stepped out on faith, and I enrolled in the VCU School of Social Work in Richmond, Virginia, and I earned my master's of social work, and I was really proud of myself because I graduated with a 3.5 GPA.
Wow.
And I graduated high school with a 1.8 GPA. So that was a huge jump.
It was.
And after that, I invited my former special education teacher to my graduation, but she was unable to make it. So I contacted the school board, the local school board, and asked if I could honor her and 6 other teachers at a school board meeting. And I brought some gifts for them and honored each one individually and sort of shared how, each one inspired me. And my special education teacher, she had encouraged me to, share my story
right.
With other people. And I took that as writing a book. So that's sort of how the book idea came along.
So now, when you were now I'm not going to ask your age. You're older, and ADHD, is it still a part of your life, or have you, or is it not? Is it still a part of you? Something you need to deal with, and it's still there with you, is just like it was in school, or have you, I'll say, conquered it, and you don't label it anymore? Use that label.
Yeah, it still bothers me. I mean, it's a constant challenge. A lot of absent-minded, because my mom said I'm one-track-minded. So when I get locked in on one thing, if I get distracted, it just almost throws everything off.
Right.
I still have a difficult time, being attentive. I still have a difficult time, being focused. I have a difficult time. I think the absent-mindedness is really like the biggest challenge.
Right.
Because, being a self-published author and having a full-time job, and having a family, there's so many different responsibilities that oftentimes don't even remotely relate to each other. So that's a challenge, and I've been looking to hire a manager and hire some people to do some things.
Right.
Now having a business, you have to pay taxes, and there's a lot of keep your mileage. So there's a lot of, I'm not a detail oriented person. I'm more of a big picture guy.
Right.
So I've had to really be conscious and mindful to get the details straight, because that can really affect a lot of the things that I'm doing. And it can also hit your pocketbook a little bit too.
That's true. My I have a grandson, and he's ADHD times 5, I'll say. And in high school, when my daughter, had his art, I told her I needed to be there. In fact, I was at all of them because I knew exactly what to ask for, because that's what I do. Mm-hmm. But when we were in high school, and I asked the teacher, I told the teacher he needed to record the classes. The first thing they go, no, whatever. I'm like, no, he's ADHD. He would never remember everything you said. Never, ever. He remembers some, not enough. I said, but he'll lose his work. So I had to put his art at all the classes he went to. He was allowed to record them, and so that he could keep up with what he was doing. And it worked, because he was able to play it back part by part and get his work done and make it all the way through. Well, he decided he wanted to join the Army. And to me, I was like, there's no way in the world. But, and his mother, she goes, well, should I let him try it? Why not? And he did not make it through basic, because, he tried to make it without any meds. So, after the 5th day of him being awake and happy and jumping around, they realized that it's not what's going to be a place for him, because he was up, he was ready, well, you know how that is. He was and scatterbrained, but still he was up with energy, and he was ready to go. And it was time to to calm down, and it wasn't just with him. So he did not make it there, and and he was all right when he came home. We thought he was going to be upset about it, but he said he understood exactly what they were saying when they was letting him know that it's not for you, and he said he understood it. So now he's in school, and he has a job, and he lives by a recorder and his tablet, because he knows before, if you ask him to go somewhere, he knows, first of all, let me look at my tablet, and he keeps it with him at all times as his. I call it his backup brain, that he keeps everything. I told her, because I bought it for him. I'm like, this is your backup brain. He's gonna put everything in there, and he does faithfully. Whatever you say, do is, if he knows it's something important, he puts it in there. So I'm like, great, because I told him tablets were made for kids with ADHD.
Oh, they were, and I found technology really being my saving grace.
Yes.
As I got older. Because when I was going through school, I was an 80s baby. I was born in '83. So when I started school, computers were starting to really pick up a little bit more, but they really weren't mainstream.
Right.
But my dad, he was like the only black person in the whole county with a computer.
Wow.
So I was able to use computers early on, and
yes,
I found them to really have been my saving grace, because my handwriting was really bad. And my organizational skills are really bad, but computers helped me, avoid the handwriting piece.
Right.
And also it helped me with the organizational piece. So when I went to college and most of my work was type papers or whatnot, I was able to organize it, and teachers could read it because it was all printed and typed up. So it definitely helped me a lot, because if I had to handwrite those papers, I probably would have flunked out of college because the teachers wouldn't have been able to read them.
That's true. Well, just in case anybody's tuning in, we're talking to Ronnie, and he's a writer of children's books. But the thing I say that's outstanding is that he went through special ed, and it didn't defeat him. He didn't let that label his life. Sometimes, as you know, Ronnie, Ronnie. As you know, you find some kids, and even where you went to school with or wherever, that were in special ed, they went home to nothing. They let the label lead their life. And you, Ronnie, have not let the label lead your life. You've used that label as an advantage to control it. So ADHD is not running your life. You're running your life, which is great, because you've learned to take that and put it to use rather than become a couch potato.
Absolutely. And that's the reason why, I wrote Nelson Beats the Odds, because I want all kids to know that, they can beat the odds. As kids, particularly in special education, a lot of it really isn't disabilities as much as it is, growing up in homes where, their families didn't really have expectations for education.
Right.
And they may have, been in classes that, required them to be in like a special education environment. And, growing up in a small town in a rural county, most of the, kids here, college wasn't something that they talked about at the kitchen table. It was more how we going to make it through the day.
Right.
And, when they got to school, that showed. And I had a friend who also appears in Nelson Beats the Odds, and his name was Arthur, but in the book his name was Anthony. And he was in special education with me, and he was a really good baseball player. And he was one of the best baseball players in the state. When he graduated high school in terms of pitching. But he had received a look from VC, the school I graduated from. But he didn't take the offer because he struggled with dyslexia.
Right. Oh.
Struggled reading. Okay. And he didn't even he already counted himself out in terms of being able to be succeed academically. And that's the case of a lot of athletes from this area. Is we have a lot of talented young black male athletes, but they struggle academically.
Right.
Some of them are in special education. So when they get to college, they flunk out or they quit because they don't think that they can do it. And it's really disheartening to see, particularly with kids who college is really their ticket to education. But when they get to college, they're unable to complete the coursework because they weren't prepared for it, by the K through 12. Who
Damon John is, right?
Is he from Fubu?
He does Shark. He did Fubu, yes.
Yeah.
And now he's on Shark Tank. But did you also know he's dyslexic?
No, I didn't.
He's severely dyslexic. And
I didn't know that.
If you study one day, if you have some time, study him and read. He's got some great books out there on how to do your business. But if you listen to some of his interviews, he's severely dyslexic.
Wow.
Right, there you go. See,
but you know what? I'm not surprised, because in writing my book, I include different quotes from celebrities who have disabilities.
Yes.
And what I read is that dyslexics, there is a huge, there's a high proportionate amount in terms of numbers of dyslexic billionaires.
Yes.
There's a lot of, like the owner of IKEA, you have the guy from Virgin Airlines, Damon, and Malcolm Gladwell wrote about it in his book. And he talks about how, people who struggle with dyslexia, even in general, people who struggle with losing a parent early on, they learn how to be able to, I guess they have this resilience about them that's different and more intense than other kids, and it sort of drives them, to succeed. So, when I hear of a case of someone who had a disability or who struggled academically succeeding, I'm not surprised, because you have to work You had to work harder than your friends. My friends that I graduated high school with, they were much better than me academically, and they were in honor societies, and they always get the certificates and stuff. And I was the only one out of the group to earn a master's degree, and I had some that even flunked out of college because learning just came so easy to them. They sort of took it for granted.
Right.
But for me, I never took it for granted because I know it wasn't that easy. It's not something that was handed to me. I had to work for it, and it pushed me to to go for my master's. Because I wanted to prove to myself, and also prove to. I had a teacher that told me that I wasn't going to college, and prove to him, that I not only was going to college, but I was going to graduate.
Right.
And go on and do more. So, I always encourage kids that, when people tell you can't do anything, or if you feel like people don't think you can do anything, then, the best way to get them back is to prove them wrong. And, to do that, that's the biggest payback. So, I always push kids to do that. Because a lot of our kids, particularly, black males,
right,
there are a lot of people who, whether directly or indirectly, don't believe that they can do anything. Or kids from a, impoverished background, or kids with disabilities. So it's almost like you grow up, being an underdog. And, for me, I use that as motivation. And, I really want kids out there to use that as motivation, not as discouragement. Okay,
if someone wanted to find out your website to possibly buy some of your books or find more about you, what website would they go to?
They can go to NelsonBeatsTheOdds.com. You could also look at my books on Amazon, Nelson Beats the Odds and Tamika's New Dress. You can Google those in. I have another website, www.creative-medicine.com. So those are my two websites. But if you look up Ronnie Sydney II online, it'll pull up a bunch of articles and some videos. I've been fortunate enough to appear on Fox News, HLN, NBC. So Ms. Phyllis, I definitely thank you for this opportunity because, being a self-published author and being an independent business owner, it's really difficult to get that visibility. So, anytime I get an opportunity to share my story, right, talk about Nelson Beats the Odds, I really appreciate it.
It's very important, too, because like I said, parents who will be listening and can talk to their kids, and even young people who are listening will be able to know that they can do this. When I was younger, well, ADHD wasn't around. It was simply ADD. There were no medications for it either. But my parents took me to an African doctor because my dad he thinks medicine is to kill you. That's what his thought was. You say medication, he thought you were trying to kill me. So anyway, it took me to an African doctor, and she changed my entire eating habits. She made I ate all island food and all African food. I was not allowed to eat American food. I ate all natural foods. I couldn't have anything artificial. And staying that way, it did help me because she said that, the problem with the ADD was not medication. She thought it was through all these foods that were, the fast foods, the foods with preservatives in it. That's what she was going that route. She went that entire route with me, and it did help me because later on when I started eating other foods, I realized that I was in trouble again. But I don't know if you know, but in 1985, doctors got together and decided on ADD they weren't making any money because we didn't get medication. We were just told to change a few things. Mm-hmm. But they put that H in there to make it ADHD, therefore they can medicate you and control you. And people never paid attention to that. To the fact that it switched, because you no longer hear ADD. You don't hear it. It's gone. You hear ADHD, and then medication comes in. And I think the other bad part, and I wish people would talk about it more, is that when you're ADHD, you graduate from high school, you go to college, you have no insurance. So those psychotropic drugs that you were given and are gone, and a lot of the kids turn to marijuana. Mm-hmm. And they turn to drugs because they can get that faster with no prescription. And it does the same thing to them as the medication did.
And even kids in high school who are taking the Adderall and, the Ritalin, those kids, some of those kids are selling those pills.
Yes, they
on
are.
the black market, to their friend. And I've worked with some kids
Yeah.
who are involved with the courts because they sold their pills. And you have people that abuse. You have parents, selling their kids pills. And it's become such a huge. I don't think nobody anticipated that. When the market was flooded, the pharmaceutical companies were making money, and they're so readily available that people would abuse them the way that they are. But they're really being abused, and being an outpatient therapist, and I work with kids, who have all the symptoms of ADHD, and they self-medicate with marijuana because it relaxes them, calms them, and it helps them think better, and and I'm like, wow, this is almost a new age now. Either people are medicating with pills or medicating with with marijuana.
Yeah. But the kids who aren't ADHD, who do take the Ritalin to stay up and everything, don't realize that they can have a heart attack instantly. Mm-hmm. They don't realize that for them, it might give them the energy they need, but it's also blowing up their heart.
And just from my experience too, a lot of the kids don't like taking the medication. I mean, I would say the kids that I work with that were prescribed the ADHD medication, I would say about 85% didn't want to take it at all.
Correct.
And even a lot of the parents really weren't. I mean, there are some parents whose kids, bounce off the wall and they just want something to calm them down. But a lot of times it was really the schools and the courts and other organizations that were really encouraging that these kids be placed on the medication. The parents kind of felt like they didn't have a voice. They were just tired of getting phone calls. Some parents talked about getting phone calls every single day.
Yep.
And they just wanted it to stop, and they just do what the experts say. But like you said, some parents aren't informed of the side effects.
That's true.
And I think that's the part that parents have to be informed and know, because your kids are going to be living with those symptoms, for the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. So it's really important that they educate themselves and make an informed decision, not the decision that the experts say they should make.
That's true. Well, I want to thank you for calling in this morning and us talking about special ed and that you don't have to let it lead your life. You can lead your life and deal with it and move on, because you have a master's degree, correct?
Yes.
You have something that a lot of people say, how did he get that? Or tell people, other kids, that's not you. Forget it. Just go to a community college and work at HEB or Walmart, not to say, oh, you can get a master's and now you can turn around, write books, do speaking, public speaking, have a business. You can do all those things, and it's not told. So your story needs to be told more and more, so that everybody can see, and even parents, because some parents, the school gives you that dismal vision of your child being at home with you forever, and that's scary.
Yeah.
And then, but with you, we said, no, listen, there's this young man named Ronnie Sydney. He writes books. He speaks. I'm going to take you to his website. You can learn all about him. So you would be someone that the parents could champion. Their kids say, oh, no. Follow this young man right here. Not do what you do, but follow the fact that you moved on. You didn't just become the couch potato working at a store stocking bags or whatever. You went on to become something and use it as your platform to say, you know what, don't have to do this. I can go here. I can go as high as I want to go. So I want to thank you for talking with us this morning, and it won't be the last time. and we are going to get you to Texas so that you can actually, you can do a book signing and talk more with parents and our young people.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
All right, so I want to thank you for calling in, and we're going to take a break, and we're going to come right back. So once again, I want to thank Ronnie Sydney for coming on.